Time for Business Now. Owen's here with fresh figures on global unemployment. They're going to grate, though, on European leaders, aren't they?
It's absolutely, Stuart. It's a global unemployment report from the International Labour Organization, but Europe features heavily in this. Essentially, the headline figure from this report is that 202 million people will be out of work by the end of this year. That's, to put that in context, that's 6% of the global workforce. It's not a huge increase on last year, only around 3% or so. But in terms of how it impacts in Europe, well, 9%, we've got 9% unemployment in Europe. That's nearly double that of Southeast Asia. And the ILO makes the report that something's going wrong here. We've had governments around Europe putting into plan austerity programs over the past couple of years. Think Greece, think countries like Spain, Ireland and so on. But the ILO has put that squarely, has blamed that squarely on this significant increase in unemployment over the last 4 years or so. Here's Raymond Torres from the ILO.
Austerity has not produced more economic growth. The view was that by reducing budgets, by reducing public investment, public demand, there would be more room for increases in private investment and private demand. This has not materialized, if only because demand overall is weak, and in addition, enterprises continue to have difficulty, especially small ones, to have access to the credit system.
Yeah, that's Raymond Torres there from the International Labour Organization. His position, another potential gift for François Hollande at a crucial time.
Very much so. Of course, we've got less than a week now until that second round. And François Hollande, remember, in the last few weeks has really been ramping up this platform about him being a growth president. He really wants to renegotiate this new treaty on budget deficits. Remember, all these EU or Eurozone countries are supposed to be committed to bringing down their budget deficits with the help of a bit of austerity. Hollande says it's not working. And as you say, that ILO position is, in many ways, an endorsement of his position. It's not just the ILO. We have the European Central Bank as well, Mario Draghi there, suggesting that Europe needs a sort of pan-European growth pact as well. So you can see the ground just starting to shift a little bit away from this conventional wisdom or this received wisdom that austerity was the way to bring things down. If you look at the UK, a country that's now in recession, the coalition government there thought that austerity plus a bit of private sector investment was the way forward. It hasn't happened. We've got the jobless rate in the UK climbing as well, and a government that now has to admit that its austerity programme has put the UK into recession once again. So as you say, big week for François Hollande, and he will no doubt be looking at those figures from the ILO and those comments from Raymond Torres to strengthen his own position.
OK, well, we're going to stay with employment because the growth versus spending debate likely to define the most important relationship in the Eurozone, at least for the next few months anyway. If the polls are correct, of course, Europe is about to get a new Merlande alliance. President François Hollande and Chancellor Angela Merkel. But his growth-first platform is at odds with Merkel's priority, of course, which is to get budget deficits down. William Edwards has more.
They've been dubbed Merkozy. The German Chancellor and the French President have become a European power couple, pushing bailout agreements and austerity measures through the Eurozone. But polls predict Nicolas Sarkozy could lose his re-election bid, and his potential successor plans to shake things up. François Hollande has talked of renegotiating a series of hard-won treaties to regulate the spending and deficit levels of European governments. And he said the focus in Europe should be not just on austerity, but on growth.
Citizens of France say to Europe that it must once again be headed towards growth, progress and the future.
This has all brought a sharp response from Angela Merkel. Last week, she staunchly defended the fiscal pact, saying to reporters it cannot be renegotiated, while a close aide has suggested Hollande has misunderstood the EU debt crisis. But despite the fighting talk, there have been moves towards a détente in recent days. In an interview on Saturday, Merkel backed the idea of strengthening the European Investment Bank. That's one of Hollande's suggestions for boosting investment, and it's also been picked up by the EU Commission. This apparent easing of the German position on austerity may be down to the fact that Italy and other EU countries may side with Hollande.
Monti is going to believe Hollande, frankly, and so is Mariano Rajoy in Spain. And of course, the Greeks are. They are looking for some kind of rescue, some kind of line of help for them thrown to them. And so I think that the Germans are going to have to recognise that the political balance will have shifted somewhat.
Financial markets have already shown unease at the prospect of an Hollande presidency. while The Economist magazine puts its concerns front and centre, calling him a dangerous man for Europe.
OK, let's look at the markets now this Monday at the start of the trading week. Pretty quiet day's trade so far. That's largely because the Nikkei and Shanghai Composite are closed for a public holiday. So just the Hang Seng and the Kospi and the ASX ticking along there. You can see the Hang Seng around just over 1% up, around 1.5% in fact at the last count. It's on course for a 2% gain for the whole of April.
A couple of other business headlines for you, starting in India, in fact, where the government is in talks to further relax an embargo on cotton exports. Farmers have been demonstrating ever since the ban was imposed 2 months ago to try to stop reserves being further depleted. India has this year exported nearly a record 9.5 million bales of cotton, much higher than original estimates, with countries like China expected to drive demand for another 30 million bales.
And Nokia is in discussions to sell its luxury mobile phone brand Vertu. According to the Financial Times, the Finnish phone maker is in discussions with private equity group Permira. The deal could raise around 200 million euros for Nokia, which has issued a series of profit warnings as it loses market share to Apple and Samsung. Now, if luxury mobile phones aren't quite your thing, then how about a painting or two? That's certainly the thinking behind many Russian billionaires. Those that have made their fortune in things like oil and gas are now looking for new ways to invest their cash. And that means that Sotheby's and Christie's, the world's two biggest auction houses, are in a strong position to clean up in cities like Moscow.
In among the mere browsers at Christie's pre-sale art exhibition in Moscow is a serious buyer. Alexei is part of Russia's rapidly growing club of art aficionados, and he's looking for a Rembrandt, Picasso, or one of the world-famous Russian painters to add to his collection. Many of Russia's collectors build their fortunes in oil, gas or metals, but they see the art market as the new place to invest their money. International auction houses set up shop in Moscow in the 1990s, and the two main players, Christie's and Sotheby's, have been multiplying exhibitions here ever since. And it's a lucrative market. Moscow boasts the highest number of billionaires than any other city in the world, and they have an open mind to art, from the classics to the modern.
Russia, including other emerging markets, is now joining the global art market to compete for the best works of art. So we're seeing Russian collectors participating in 8 to 10% of our global turnover, and of course our turnover last year was $5.7 billion.
Unlike elsewhere, the 2008 global economic crisis barely had an impact on the purchasing power of Russia's top tier of society. But auction houses complain that Russian law prevents the market from reaching its full potential.
Russian items are sold at Christie's and Sotheby's, but you can't actually export a Russian item from Russia.
Despite the legal hurdles, the market is growing steadily, and local dealers are now setting up shop, selling works by homegrown artists. Last year, a Moscow auction house for the first time sold a painting by a Russian artist more than $700,000. Small change compared to the world's big players, but still a step in the right direction.
It's a tough choice, isn't it? Do you go for the Rembrandt or the Picasso? Owen can't make his mind up either. More business with Owen just over an hour's time. Of course, latest news headlines with Claire very shortly. Stay with us.